Hey, what's up guys? Today I'll show you a horror comedy film, Vamps. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with a centuries-old vampire named Goody, narrating her life story. She was turned by their maker, or a vampire capable of turning humans into vampires, in 1841. But Goody started consuming animal blood, so she won't harm humans. Ever since then, she has watched as the world changed. She was there when electricity first lit up the world, and she was also there when women started having more hormone freedom. In the 1980s, Goody fell in love with a man, but she broke his heart by leaving him, possibly because he's too bad at hormone skills. She had sworn off love ever since. A decade later, the same stem vampire infected and turned a young vivacious woman named Stacy. Goody took Stacy under her wing and taught her how to be a sexy vampire. In turn, Stacy taught Goody all about modern technology. The two vampires now live together in a New York City apartment. They work as exterminators at night while they sleep in their coffins during the day. The two of them share everything with each other, but Stacy does not know Goody's real age because Goody is shy about how old she is. One night, their maker summons them to her extravagant apartment in the city. Because she created them, she has the power to make Goody and Stacy do her bidding. She orders the two girls to model designer clothes so she can see how the clothes fit. Since vampires do not have any reflections in the mirror, the maker's vanity cannot be satisfied. At that moment, a pizza delivery guy arrives, and the maker feeds on him rather than the pizza. Goody and Stacy leave the bloody apartment in disgust. The two of them head to a nightclub to blow off some steam. Goody encounters a male vampire who tells her that if her maker dies, Goody will revert to being human, but then she will show her real age. Goody also hypnotizes a naked blonde girl to prevent her from going with the male vampire, because Goody knows he will just feed on her. Goody goes home with a musician from the club. She wants to spend the night with him, but his personality is just so off-putting, and he likes to talk about himself. However, he gets a nosebleed, and Goody ends up sucking his diabetic blood through his smelly nose. On the other side, a vampire hunter named Van Helsing arrives in the city. He heads straight for the crime scene in an alley. There are exsanguinated body parts lying on the floor. Van Helsing immediately suspects that it's the work of a vampire. Goody and Stacy attend a support group meeting of vampires who have forsaken human blood. She asks a very old vampire if it really is true that if her maker is killed, she will begin to show her real age. The old vampire confirms this, and Goody worries because Stacy does not know how old she really is. That night, Stacy edits an image of a woman and turns it into a close approximation of Goody's face. Goody tears up at the sight of her own face because it has been centuries since she had last seen her reflection. Stacy attends college classes, and she meets a dashing young man named Joey. The problem is his last name is Van Helsing, like the famous vampire hunter. Stacy is in denial about this, so she pursues this flirtation still. While on her shift in the hospital, Goody accidentally encounters her former lover during the 1980s. She dodges him, but the next day, they meet again. Goody is forced to pretend that she is Goody's daughter, so the lover won't think it's odd that she hasn't aged a day. The lover is in the hospital because his wife is sick with cancer. He urges Goody to call him so they can talk about her so-called mother. Meanwhile, things are getting hot and heavy between Stacy and Joey. One night, she meets his parents, and they remark that her hands are very cold and she's very pale. They quickly come to the conclusion that she is a vampire. But Joey laughs their accusation off and thinks that his parents are just paranoid. Later, Van Helsing and a fellow hunter storm into an apartment and kill a vampire that is resting inside his coffin. Goody and Stacy attend another meeting, and they share that Stacy had received a summons for jury duty. They also find out other members of the group have also received government notices. They are now starting to believe that the government is using official means to identify and lure vampires in order to hunt them down. The two vampire girls are summoned by their maker once again. They tell the maker about the looming threat, but she is unfazed. She has decided that she will go to Spain to chase after a popcorn singer. After that, Joey invites Stacy to a family dinner in order to clear once and for all his family's doubts about her humanity. So she uses spray tan to darken her pale complexion, and she attempts to eat the salad the family served her. But Van Helsing remains unconvinced, and he is impervious to her hypnotism. Meanwhile, Goody carefully dresses in clothing pieces from several different decades before she meets with her former lover. Still leading him under the impression that she is Goody's daughter, Goody goes through several mementos from their activist era together with her lover. They then proceed to go to a record store downtown. But while they are inside, a criminal pulls out a gun and announces a holdup. An old man starts having a heart attack because of the shock. Goody super speeds to the old man and rips open his shirt. She bites his chest in order to stop the heart attack and get his blood flow going. She then hypnotizes the rest of the witnesses into forgetting about what they saw, all except the lover, who is understandably shocked. Goody takes the lover into a restaurant so she can explain that she's a vampire, but she doesn't drink human blood. She also confesses that she broke up with him despite being so in love because she wanted him to have a full life with someone who can grow old with him. The lover is still processing everything she revealed, but he assures her that he will talk to her again. When she returns home that night, Goody rummages through her suitcase. She flips through her photographs of all the men she had fallen in love with, including her 1980s lover. She also fondly gazes at the photograph of her 2 children, who have long since died because they are human. Meanwhile, Joey and Stacy spend the hormone night together, but she forgets the time, and before she knows it, sunrise is almost there. She quickly shimmies down the side of his building to avoid the sun, but Joey sees her, and it finally dawns on him that his parents are right, and she is a blood-sucking vampire instead of a hormone-sucking girl. The next day, Joey is still afraid of the blood-sucking Stacy. He even brings garlic and a wooden cross with him to school, but Stacy convinces him that she's a good vampire who focuses only on hormones. So the couple reconciles and resumes their passionate hormonity. The support group holds another meeting. This time, the lover is there, and he explains to the vampires that the government is tracking them, using their phones and computers. This is why they've all been receiving court summons and subpoenas for the past few weeks. With the lover's legal expertise, the group comes up with a plan to defeat the government. A few days later, the group takes advantage of the eclipse. They are able to walk outside in the daylight because of the eclipse. They all go to the government offices and hypnotize the clerks into deleting their legal records, thus preventing the government from identifying and tracking them. The mission turns out to be a success. To celebrate, the vampires throw a party. The lover and Joey are invited, and both men dance comfortably with other vampires. Goody and her lover also have a romantical dance, and it is bittersweet for her because for a moment, it was the 1980s all over again, and she had him back. However, the vampire girl's maker soon returns to the city because she failed to romance the Spanish popcorn singer. She kills a restaurant full of people out of rage, and Goody and Stacy arrive just in time to see that one waiter is still alive. The maker tries to hypnotize the 2 vampire girls into finishing off the waiter, but their minds are so set on not harming humans. Exasperated, she allows them to take the barely breathing waiter into the hospital. The massacre brings more unwanted attention to the vampires. Later, Goody becomes concerned because Stacy has been throwing up for weeks now. She shares her symptoms with the old vampire, and he reveals that Stacy must be pregnant due to too many human hormone shocks. However, her pregnancy will be terminated if she doesn't turn back into a human, because vampire bodies are a hostile environment for human babies. Goody breaks the news to Joey and Stacy, who are both ecstatic that they will be having a baby. While watching an old TV show called General Grant's Tomb, Goody realizes that is the location of their maker's lair. The lair is where a vampire is at their most vulnerable, and that is the perfect place for them to kill their maker, so Stacy can become human again and have her child. But before they enact their plan, Goody takes Stacy aside and reveals that she has to turn back into a human or else her pregnancy will be terminated. Stacy wants to have the baby, even if it means she will return to 40 years old after they kill their maker. Goody helps out her former lover by enlisting the male vampire's help. He turns the lover's dying wife into a vampire. As part of her plan, Goody also establishes a truce with Van Helsing. She tells him about Stacy's pregnancy and dilemma. In the interest of having Stacy be a normal person and give birth to his grandchild, Van Helsing agrees to work with Goody. She also reveals to him that she only agreed to become a vampire because she was sick with cholera in 1841 and she didn't want to leave her 2 children behind. Because she survived, she was able to raise her children and see them live long and fulfilling lives. But as the decades passed, Goody drifted out of her descendants' lives so as to avoid questions about her age. Knowing that Van Helsing helps her track down her family tree, and Goody discovers that many of her descendants are successful. Goody, Stacy, and Van Helsing all arm themselves with weapons. They go to Grant's tomb and find the vampire maker there, about to feed on a human. They take turns fighting the maker, but she is too strong. She tells the 2 girls that she's disappointed in their disloyalty after everything she has done for them. While the maker is grumbling without stop, Joey arrives with a chainsaw suddenly and hacks off the annoying maker's head. Goody shouts that they have to trap her head inside the tomb, so she will permanently die. They successfully seal the tomb, but the maker's head attaches itself to General Grant's skeleton and slowly crawls out of the tomb like a vampire spider. Luckily, they manage to finish her off. With their maker dead, Stacy turns into a pregnant 40-year-old human, while Goody turns into a wrinkled 200-year-old lady. Stacy is surprised that she lied about her age, but Goody assures her that she had already lived a long life, and if it wasn't for Stacy as her companion, she would have killed herself a long time ago. Goody knows it's time for her to move on. So for her last moments on Earth, Stacy takes Goody to Times Square, her favorite place in the city. She looks around the vibrant billboards and the restless pedestrians, reliving all the decades she has spent in the city and all the people she has met. Finally, she sees her two children as babies in front of her. She sees the old house they lived in when life used to be simple. With a smile, the sun touches Goody and she evaporates into dust. Stacy cries as she lets go of her best friend. Years pass, and Stacy and Joey are still just as in love with each other. She is now enjoying her human life to the fullest. Meanwhile, their daughter, who they named after Goody, visits her grandpa Van Helsing very often. The movie ends with the daughter revealing her shiny vampire fangs to her grandpa, who just laughs his shit off and accepts her for who she is. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.